Big story last night with Collingwood coach Craig McRae playing down his second quarter exchange with GWS coach Adam Kingsley as a bit of fun. McRae appeared to celebrate a 50-metre penalty paid against Toby Bedford that saw Brodie Myercheck kick a goal from the goal square. Here's McRae explaining the incident post-match.
I was having a bit of fun with Kingy, an old mate of mine. I was just staring up and said we're coming, and he just had a bit of fun. He's a bit fiery than me. I'm a bit more humorous.
Did it stem though from, it looked like in the vision that it might have stemmed from a celebration of a 50-metre penalty?
Oh yeah, I like to celebrate all the little things. No, nothing to it. If you want to make it a story, it's nothing story, but...
So Bedford drops Daicos, McRae celebrates and shoots some words to the direction of the Giants bench. Adam Kingsley didn't look like he was having a bit of fun at all. And I would expect, as I said last night, that there is a sanction for this because it's not on, and the AFL have said that it's not on. So we'll wait and see how they deal with it.
What sanction are you saying?
Well, Hinkley was more demonstrative, but it was from a much further distance. It wasn't in play.
He was mocking and
on the interchange bench. He said, "Jack, you're not flying anywhere." That's what he said.
He did the
Jack, yeah, more demonstrative, as I said, but not in play. From a further distance away, apologised straight after and didn't, brush it off as a joke.
Protecting Ken again. Just
I'm not protecting Ken at all. I'm just saying if you're going to fine Ken Hinkley for doing that and the AFL are going to say this is not on, then they have no option other than to fine Craig McRae. So we'll wait and see.
Do you believe in suspended fines?
Not really. Waste of time.
Like a warning?
Waste of time. I think the warning's Hinkley, isn't it? That's the warning.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I sit with it. I don't think it's a big deal, but I understand.
No, I didn't think Hinkley was a big deal. I didn't think Hinkley was a big deal, but the AFL does.
Yeah, the only one that worries me is the lower level discussion. This is ugly at lower levels. If you got benches going back and forth at one another, it has the potential to be really nasty.
Adam Kingsley is going to join us after 8 o'clock. I'm sure he will play it down, but we'll try and find out and get to the bottom of exactly what was said.
I'll tell you what, he panicked, Craig, didn't he? He said, "Sit down, fly," and he went and sat down.
I know. He wasn't
not
taking
the most courageous of coaches, fly.
And you see Kinger's pipes, like he just leaves in the gym.
He's just giving a little tweak, a little flex.
Just a flex.
Just to stretch the medium shirt that he wears these days. And Fly, you sit down, mate. You go and sit down. Okay.
They were close. They were very close. Kingy, you always go first with first thoughts.
What are my thoughts? Yours.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, 100%.
All right, I'll go first. You hang up first.
Can you say what are my thoughts?
No, I'll hang up first. What are my thoughts? Well, my thoughts are, according to Sir Swamp Thing on Twitter, and this isn't probably something that is going to shock everyone, but it is certainly in this extraordinary stat. The Collingwood team that played yesterday with an average age of 28 years and 82 days is the oldest that any club has put on the park for their first game of a VFL/AFL season, and they looked old and slow. It's the only conclusion that I can find after yesterday. They looked old, they looked underprepared, they looked unfit, they looked slow, and the Giants, with an average age of 24, ran all over the top of them. So as we put on the agenda prior to the season with our February fill, this was always going to be a watch. And whilst you try not to react over one game, that was what struck me. And I'm not sure it's going to get any better because this Collingwood team, unlike the Giants, is pretty healthy. So De Goey will come back at some stage, but I'm not sure what you can expect from De Goey with no pre-season whatsoever and the history with his body and his age. It's not going to get much better. I mean, they'll get some injuries for sure with the age, but Pendlebury at 37 was just average. McStay, Cameron and Moore are 29. Apart from Cameron, all the two others were pretty average. Sidebottom 34 was average. Membry didn't touch it. Hoskin Elliott was subbed out. Howe wasn't his best game. Myercheck, Chris had his 20, but really ineffective. And Jamie Elliott at 32 was pretty good with his 2 goals. But it's an issue, Kingy, and it's one that's not going to get any better or be solved anytime soon.
So to piggyback on that, right, I think that leaves us with the biggest question from this game. Did they choose not to engage defensively? Or did they choose not to gut run when Callaghan broke from stoppage? Did they choose to not really buy into helping out the back six and putting on the pressure that the back six requires through that mid zone? Was that a clear choice,
yep.
or physically couldn't they cope? Couldn't they do it? So
It's
either one has
question.
poses different problems going forward, and it's too early for us to say, okay, one round in, they can or can't do this. But if they chose not to do it, it's a massive issue.
Definitely.
It's a massive issue.
It's a really good question. There's a couple of times late where the game opened up and your man Darcy Jones, he just went. And there was a couple of looks, at a choice, am I going to go? Or just at that moment, could they not physically go?
Yeah.
And I don't know that you and I can answer that question.
It's too early, but again, you put a little asterisk and we track it going forward. I'm looking fairly and squarely at Scott Pendlebury. And we've never questioned Scott. But for the first time in a long time, he looked disengaged with the defensive side of the game. He got caught with the ball 3 or 4 times. He just looked like he didn't have the speed of the game in hand like he normally does. And the problem that you've got with this now is that nothing is missed in AFL football anymore. So the scouting done against these mids will only exacerbate this problem. And now you will see who have they got. They got Port Adelaide, the Western Bulldogs, and Carlton, their next 3 opponents. They'll say, right, we've got to put speed on the game post clearance. How do we do that? We've got to get a metre on Pendlebury, and that'll be enough. We've got to get goal side of Nick Daicos because he goes 1 speed forward and 1 speed backwards. They're different. They're totally different speeds. Josh Daicos as a half backer, don't know if he really wants to defend, and maybe that's not the role. But you're right. Darcy Jones embarrassed him at times yesterday. So I'm looking at the stoppage crew, and can you persist with that group? But it is important that we put a couple of facts on the table. So look at last year. The numbers tell us that if you play a team that's a top 8 team, and we all think that the GWS Giants are a top 8 team, on the road you win 1 in every 4. So we do have to keep in mind that the numbers say this is a game they probably weren't going to win, but it's alarming what happened in the midfield.
Started red hot favourites though.
Yeah.
Red hot. Like, and
Understand.
You're right, but are they always going to come up against a team without their best forward and without the reigning All-Australian forward who kicked 77 goals, I think it was, for Hogan last year, their biggest inside mid, and on a hot day, they lose their ruckman in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Like, you put those factors in, you think Collingwood, if they think they're a top 8 side, they certainly kick more than 6 goals. They certainly don't lose by 52 points, and they pretty much are right in that game and probably should be winning it, as everyone thought they probably were going to be. And then the other factor is, so that you're spot on about the midfield, and I thought Bedford's game, I just loved his game, like 9 score involvements, getting off Daicos at the right time. He chose his moment. But can their forwards physically defend as well? We saw a couple of times the Giants just transition the ball out. Can Membry, McStay and Myercheck, and it's the same discussion I'll have about Adelaide and have had about Adelaide, can they physically defend those 3? McRae says, I don't want picks, I want players. Well, you know what? You got Membry. So that's what you got. And
he dropped a couple
that's
of sitters. He nearly broke his sternum. Nick Daicos nearly broke his sternum with a pass that he spilt. But you're right. The 3 tall forwards. You look at Sam Taylor able to take 9 intercept marks. You go, we've got 3 tools down there. Everyone tells me, oh no, Mason Cox is out of this team. He can't play Mason Cox. You can't play him. It wouldn't have happened if Mason was down there because at minimum, ball comes to ground. That's an unbelievable night afternoon, I should say, from Sam Taylor, and it looks like it's a really promising start. I mean, he's the one, isn't he? He's the one guy that probably last year wasn't himself, wasn't the same player. So from a Giants point of view, spectacular. Finn Callaghan, I didn't think he was capable of that sort of game, and I know the offer from St Kilda that they denied, 17 million over 10 years or whatever it is. He looked that sort of player yesterday.
He did.
Have you seen him do that before?
Nah, I've seen glimpses. I haven't seen anything like that.
That was unreal.
Yeah.
Inside to out, charging forward. Gee whiz.
That somewhat was. I mean, if that continues, because he's the perfect prototype midfielder, really, because he's big and he can play inside, but then to be able to get on the outside like he did yesterday, and him and Green, when they're there together, It's as good a 1-2 combination as there'll be. So, no, I was shocked by that performance yesterday. I've been hard on Darcy Moore, and I'll continue to be hard on Darcy Moore because he's the captain of the biggest club in the country. And I'm just not sure, Kingy, would Darcy Moore get a game for Hawthorn right now?
The captain of Collingwood wouldn't get a game for Hawthorn.
I don't think Darcy... If Darcy Moore was your average name, if it wasn't Darcy Moore and his name was Sam Frost, would Darcy Moore get a game with what he has delivered for the best part of 12 months now for Hawthorn? Would he be in front of Battle? Would he be in front of Barras? Would he be in front of Scrimshaw? I don't think he would. So this is a huge issue for them because you just said Taylor at one end, Darcy Moore's supposed to be their Taylor in a different version. He's not as big, but he's as important as what Taylor is to the Giants. He doesn't touch the footy in the first. He doesn't touch the footy in the first quarter.
Yeah, I know.
Does not touch the ball in the first quarter and gets exposed defensively like no key defender in the game with a reputation like that does. This guy would get $1 million a year, I reckon. Darcy Moore. He's signed until 2028, and this is an elephant in the room for Collingwood. It just is, and it has been for a long time, and it's one that they certainly haven't addressed. And there's no solution to it because they've got no backup. Like Reef McInnes is there, unfortunately for them, with no Murphy. So this is another real watch for me, and it has been for some time.
The other deeper question that I'd like to pose to you, right? So the game over the last 5 or 6 years has become who can counterpunch the best off halfback, and when they're on turnover, go. Out and gone. We see that handball chain or the short kicking chain. You get out the back and the game is at speed. That's the profile of the Premier. Right? 5 of the last 6 years, I think it is. The team that counterpunches the most effective from halfback in terms of damage wins. In 2023, Collingwood 52 points from turnover. The bulk of that off halfback. Number one in the competition for damage, 77 points per 100 turnovers. It fell away last year. They were ranked 12th in that fact. On the weekend, they got 2 points. 2 points counterpunching.
How many in 2023?
In 2023, they got 20 points from halfback. So that's 3 goals. You can't find 3 goals in AFL footy. That's a massive number. So 2 points from halfback, and the damage rate was 11 points per 100. So like, they had opportunities, lots of opportunities, and just got the 2 points. Now, there's 2 ways of looking at this. And I just want to pose, have they evolved enough? If that's clearly their strength area and the way they want to play, but what's next? If that's taken off you, what's next? Because when the repeat entries were on show, they didn't look like scoring.
Quarter.
They didn't look like scoring because they were so set behind the ball, the Giants.
Yeah.
The big three of McStay and Membry and Mychek, they didn't really look like taking a mark. It's just almost like this team is set up to score one way and can't find another. So I just wonder whether Craig McRae now, and we've heard it all in the past, the one-trick pony stuff from Ed Langdon. I just wonder, do they have to have a look at another scoring mode? And it's late to start having that discussion given that the season started.
All right, Pies fans, how are you feeling? 1300 736 736. We'll talk about the good of the Giants, and there was plenty of that. Adam Kingsley's going to join us after 8 o'clock, but Collingwood fans, give us your thoughts. 1300 736 736. We'll get to the cramp.
Hey, what about the cramp?
Well,
Hey,
100% we'll get to the
You've gone
cramp.
pretty hard on players that are cramped.
And I'll go hard again.
He was
wasn't
a poster boy when people were cramping.
Yeah, and he wasn't prepared. So that doesn't mean because he was super fit last year and because he's the hardest runner in football that it's just going to happen again for him this year. So only he would need this Nick Daicos we're talking about, who cramped up with 15 minutes and 41 seconds to go in the third quarter. Unbelievable that a player like him could happen to him. Now, to me, cramp is, and clearly I'm not Doc Larkins, but my experience with cramp is you're underprepared. That's all it is. That's why players in the early stages of the season are more prone to cramp. Then come around 6, 7, 8, we don't see players cramping anymore because they're conditioned. These players aren't conditioned enough. And I don't care if you're Nick Daicos, the best player in the game, you face criticism for not being prepared for the first game of the season. And that's what happened yesterday. This was such an issue for them. And the psyche of the whole group, when you see your best player, your hardest runner, cannot go with nearly half a footy to go. So he wasn't prepared, Kingy. That's the facts of it.
Well, I just think it's a reflection of being the 9th of March and in 28-degree heat.
But you know that. You know that, don't you?
But
you know that.
There's not a lot you can do about it. And
Well,
then there's no more
you
professional a package than Nick Daicos, mate. I see this guy train
Yeah.
the house down every time you're there. Like, he is the pin-up boy for professionalism.
Well, that may be the case.
It is
but
the case.
He wasn't
There's no
pre- well, he
maybe,
wasn't-
it is
he
the
wasn't-
case.
Well, he wasn't prepared. He wasn't prepared for an opening game on March 9 like he should have been. And they've known this for ages. Like, they didn't play finals last year, Collingwood. He's had that. How many months have they got to
Mate.
get their players ready for this game? They were not ready. He wasn't the only one, but he was the poster boy for it yesterday. He just wasn't prepared. And 100% he has to face scrutiny for that. How can you not be prepared? Your season finishes in August. You know the next game's coming around early March. You know it's probably going to be hot because it's just finished summer in Australia and you're not prepared. So how could you not be critical of that? How can he escape that scrutiny?
Escape the scrutiny. He's not escaping anything. But I'm wondering what more this guy can do to prepare himself. I think it's crazy to challenge his preparation. There's no one that prepares like him, mate. No one.
Yeah, well, maybe you get comfortable. Who knows? Maybe subconsciously, even a player as hungry as Nick Daicos, somewhere in the back of his mind, he knows he's good, and maybe he didn't put the work in that he has in the other off seasons.
He had the plantar
Only
fascia
he will.
problem.
Yeah, no, he's been injured. I get that. So maybe, and they look at the use of him. Did they ask him to do too much too early on ball? Could they have used him more forward? It's the whole of the. It's not just on Nick. It's on the footy club as well. But I don't think we can sit here and just sweep this under the carpet and I won't, because I have been critical of other players for not being prepared as well. So I think that's fair. Kingy, your first thoughts on that game?
Well, my first thoughts were to have a look at the new coach and see what he'd changed and what he'd been working on. And everyone's talked about McCartan going forward and how good's that going to be, and it's going to fix the forward line.
Are you with me? You laughed at me when I said that the last 2 weeks. Are you with me?
Oh, two's a bit short. I did laugh at the two, not the suggestion that it wouldn't last. I think I brought it up, and you said two. I was thinking more four, maybe six. But when you take that functional role out of the back line, the full back role, it's a critical position, right? You have to replace it with a like type. Now, it can be less talented, but you still have to have a full back. And when you don't have a full back, you end up with Nick Blakey playing at full back. Now, Nick Blakey's the priority in this back six. He has to play half back because we saw in the third quarter what he can do. Minimal touches, maximum damage. Big goal, set up another couple, and they looked alive when he was in the game. What happens now is my question. So what do you do in the next couple of weeks? You're going to be playing Brisbane, who have got some quality tools, and Fremantle have probably got the pick of the competition right now with, everyone's in love with Tracy Amos and potentially Jackson as that third tool going forward or starting forward. What do you do? I mean, you can't have Rampy, Melican and Blakey because you'll just get pulled apart.
Well, you just take Blakey away, don't you? I mean, he would be their third biggest weapon with Heaney and Warner, then Blakey. Like, if you're ranking the power rankings of
Gordon's
Sydney,
out. Got to have
Gordon's out. So you'd even be tempted to put Blakey up the ground higher, like even on a wing. Like, that's where he needs to be delivering the ball in the front half of the ground. I'd love him as a player because he does accept those challenges. Blakey. He can play taller than he's required. So I think he defends really well, and then he's a weapon. But you're right.
This was their back seven, Corns. Tell me what your thoughts are on this. Florent, Wicks, Roberts, Rampy, Melican, Blakey, and Patton. It's just not. Where's the stability around there? Like, Melican is the tallest player there of that group, and your nominal fullback, but you're putting all your eggs in that basket. Wouldn't you think they have to have McCartan down there just to shore it up?
That's why I think it's going to last 2 weeks. So whether there's one more week in it or whether they put him back there this week, I think that's coming shortly. Just looking at their run, I'm not sure anyone's got a harder run, to be fair. Like, he's Brisbane this week, as you said, Fremantle away, then they've got to buy it. North Melbourne at Marvel I'm telling you, it's not easy. People would say rock up and win.
They've won 3 games in 10 years.
They challenged them there last year from memory. They will challenge them there again. Then it's Collingwood, for gather round in Adelaide. Then it's Port Adelaide at the SCG, so they probably get that one. But Gold Coast and Metricon, GWS, Essendon, Carlton, Melbourne, Adelaide before they play Richmond in round 13. That is as tough a run as you're ever going to get as a new coach. So I know we say don't overreact after one game, but when you're staring at a fixture like that, there's just slight panic stations, and Goulden's not coming back anytime soon either.
Ever had a coach, Corns, have you ever had a coach come in and say, this plan's not working, or this plan is now redundant, we need to make change?
Every second week when Matty Promise was coaching Port.
And you lose confidence immediately.
Yes.
Immediately, everyone says, what do you
Straight
mean?
away.
We've been working on this for 3 months.
Straight away.
And it didn't work one game, and you sack it, and you go, wow, so what are we going to now? And we're going to just pick this up in two hours of training during the week. It can't be a great model if it takes 2 hours to work it out and play it next weekend. That's my worry with this situation now for Dean Cox. You can't make radical change. He can't move McCartan for 2 weeks. He can't. He has to sit this out for 4 because we've gone in and I've told you guys this can work. If I bail on this straight away, I'll lose all credibility with the group. And the senior core players again. We just had a bloke that took us to 5 grand finals, and he's now sitting in another office sorting out a centre of excellence he's basically picking up checks. Let's be honest, right? And I'm sure he'll come on and tell us that at some stage and be honest with us. But as soon as those senior core players go, what are we doing here? We're changing what we've set for the last 3, 4, 5 weeks in a heartbeat. So that's my worry with Dean Cox right now.
Yeah. And what do you do from a list management point of view? Surely you've known this could be an area of weakness, be it in front of the ball with your key tall forwards that you're not confident with, or be it behind the ball. And you go, Rampy, he must be 33, Rampy, off the top of my head. You go, Melican, solid citizen, but all of the names you just mentioned. Surely you sit there and go, yeah, I reckon this might be an issue. Now, whether their salary cap is just cooked, whether they couldn't do anything because they're trying to write the huge number for Chad Warner and they're factoring that in, I don't know. Only they would know, and until we have wages public, we will never know. But you would think over the course of the off-season and list management strategy, which is years in advance, they would have seen these issues being on the table, and now it's too late. Now it's too late to fix it. Will Day, I know you were impressed.
Will Day, well, it's not just that I was impressed with Will Day. If you talk about the collective, so they got these 3. It's a big gap between having 2 gun mids and 3 gun mids. So when Warple's playing the way that he is at the moment at clearances, I know he's going to miss a few weeks, but we're sort of looking at the bigger picture. Now they're playing them in the forward half, inside the forward 50. You get a real opportunity now to see Will Day at his best. He doesn't play deep forward. He plays that sort of centre-half forward sort of area. Newcomb's goes a bit deeper. I love it. I think they got a 15 to 20 goal asset with these guys playing forward of the ball.
Yeah, well, if he had 13 career goals leading into Friday night and he kicks 3 in that game, I think the number, if he's a goal a game, like Patrick Cripps is probably now nearly a goal a game. You know, he's kicked 20 odd a couple of seasons ago. I think it was between 15 and 20 last year. If that's the number that's what Will Day needs to be modelling his game on, is that Patrick Cripps model where he's just become so dangerous forward of the ball. And if that happens, and you've got so many avenues to goal, like these small forwards that they've got, I really was impressed by Cam Mackenzie's game. I think he's going to go past Ginnivan in a similar role. I think he's got more tricks and more athleticism and running capabilities. So there's another one. Connor McDonald was quiet. We know the Wizard was quiet.
The Wizard was awful. What happened to the Wizard?
No, the Wizard's going to be fine. Don't worry about the
What
Wizard.
happened to the Wizard?
Don't worry about the Wizard for
You're
1
giving
second.
second-year blues to Harley
Don't
Reid. What about the
worry
bloody Wizard?
About the Wizard for 1 second. I've not lost 1 minute's sleep. The Wizard will be absolutely fine. You watch. This is Monday Fireball for Kogan. Kogan.com's birthday sale.
Favourites. Bloody hell.
So I'm slightly worried about my man Ginnivan.
Slightly.
I'm not worried at all.
You're in love
about
with him
the
after
Wizard.
the game. It was embarrassing.
I was all, what about you?
It was embarrassing. You were dribbling on him. You were frothing at the mouth.
I was
looking thinking, this is awkward.
There was Ginnivans everywhere, actually.
What do you mean?
It's an interesting experience in the change rooms after a game. Loved it. But so
You
Jack
look
was
nervous.
there. Nah, it was fine. And then I was in my own environment in the Hawthorn rooms. Now, had I been in a more hostile environment...
What if the dogs... Are you going to go into the dogs' rooms?
No.
You're not going in?
I think I'm banned.
You're banned? Hang on. How did we stumble across this? You're banned.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
What, has that been made public?
Do they play on Thursday night, the Western Bulldogs, at all this year?
Yeah, they would. 100%.
Do they?
I hope it's early. I hope it's really early.
But there was Jack Ginnivan.
You're doing it from the shed.
Then there was the old man Craig, who came and said g'day.
Oh, yeah.
And then Craig has a twin brother, so Jack's uncle, who clearly looks exactly like the old man. There was Ginnivans everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
It's unbelievable.
They're very supportive. Let's just say they're very
They're
supportive.
very supportive. I read the best quote from any coach so far this year over the weekend.
Hang on. That's big.
And I might actually keep my 10 favourite quotes from coaches this year. This is going to be hard to beat, though. It was from our previous guest, Adam Kingsley, who did a sit-down with the new chief footy writer of the Herald Sun, Jay Clark, over the weekend on the package. Jake Stringer.
Can't say that. He's not.
And the quote was, you pay them for 12 months, not 9 months. I thought that is so spot on. I've never heard anything more accurate in my whole life. Anyway, the topic of my agenda is that have Essendon done the right thing by letting go of Stringer, or are the standards at Essendon an issue? Because the whole subject of this piece with Jay Clark and Adam Kingsley was on Jake Stringer and the fact that in the off-season he'd lost a bit of weight, but his skin folds had gone up. And it was a shock to Jake Stringer how hard the Giants trained when he first got there. So does that say Essendon's standards aren't as good as the Giants? Or does that say it's just taken far too long for Jake Stringer at 30 to understand what is required for a player? Now, King has said in this piece, the way we train is pretty hard. It's pretty intense. You've got to train pretty hard in order to try and recreate that intensity in games. And I think he got a bit of a surprise in his first few sessions. We hit the ground running. To be honest, you expect them to do the work in the off-season when they're not here so that they are ready to go when they get here. You pay them for 12 months, not 9 months. And then Jay said this was no soft landing for the Premiership Bulldogs. So his weight went down, his skin folds went up. Then in the Christmas break, they were lauding him because his skin folds went down 9 millimetres in 3 weeks, which is a lot, it's like going from 60 to 50, which is a lot. What do you think? Standards at Essendon no good, or Jake Stringer just may never get it? At age 30, he's still working out what is required to be a professional player.
I mean this in the nicest possible way, that Jake's probably not the person we should be judging football clubs upon.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Look, Jake's Jake. And there'll be different players that do different things at Essendon that drive standards. Well, Zach Merritt just drives standards. And I understand that they've gone through a radical shift over the last 18 months. But when I was up at the Giants last year, they ran me through their running profile as a group, the blocks that they have done. And they've been building over the last 2 to 3 years this enormous running power that is challenging them physically to the point of strain, to the point of breaking. So this is the benefits of that program. And I'd hate to be walking into that underprepared. Wow. Yeah. You just get whacked. But it's
good insight.
It is a good insight.
And we'll see whether, and look, he's broken down already, Jake. So we'll see whether this will be too much for him physically, the Giants program, which they're asking him to buy into, and whether his body can actually cope with that. Because early signs would say that, well, he's broken down. So early signs would say that it can't. So it's a watch. What's on your agenda?
Well, I was looking at the Hawthorn lineup on Friday night. Club 10. 10 players have come from other clubs in their 23 the other night. 10 of 23. That's a massive number. And you looked at the impact that we were watching to see what Barras would do and what Battle would do to this back six, and would it give them the ability to throw Stringer forward and all those sorts of things, which it obviously did. 10 players of 23. That's a huge number. And they've hit with most of them. I mean, we love what Carl Amon's doing. We love what Massimo's doing on the wing there.
Impey.
We talked a lot about Impey off half-back. And
Scrimshaw.
Big Lloyd in the ruck. So they've targeted the right players, and they've to have 10 of 23 is a huge number. What I did want to throw in as a secondary part of this discussion, Is it time to just start Sicily forward? I think if you put him down there, he's the best forward that they've got. The game changes when Sicily goes forward. Why not start him down there? They had their clearance game going early, and they didn't get it. They didn't get full bang for buck on the scoreboard because Sicily was down back. I reckon you just got to start him forward. Don't wait to pull the ripcord. Actually take control of the initiative of the game.
Does it keep the opposition guessing a little bit?
I want them guessing. I want them getting.
Is it harder to plan for? When's it coming? Where's Hardwick? Is he forward? Is he back? Where's Sicily? When are they going to do it? I don't mind the intrigue.
No, I'll
and
just
the guessing game.
Put the game to bed as quickly as you possibly can. They're fine down back. Battle, Scrimshaw, and Barras. They've got it covered.
All right, what do you think, Hawks fans? Time to just start him there. It's going to be a topic of conversation right throughout the year and the use of him. But I love the fact how he just adapts and the unbelievable leadership, selflessness for him to be able to do that. And it's a different Sicily than we saw probably 4 or 5 years ago, to be fair, when he was pretty volatile and his body language could let him down. But he's leading this club admirably now. Oscar Allen, back page story on, I think it was sort of broke on Friday night at the footy and then Saturday morning of the West Australian with Hawthorn, speaking of players from another club, targeting Oscar Allen. And the Herald Sun have followed this up and sort of suggested that it's a dispute over length of contract for Oscar Allen. So he clearly wants long. West Coast are going, well, hang on, you don't play. Like, you missed all of 22, I think it was. You played 11 last year. You're terrific in 23. But we're probably not prepared to give you a 7-year deal because of the history with your body. He's the captain of the club. I love this from West Coast, but I get the feeling they're going to buckle and bend to his demands for the look of this. But at what point do you say, we're not confident of your body, we're not giving you 7 years, and if you want to go, go.
Sure.
How do they play it?
Oh, he's your captain.
He's your captain.
You can't force your captain out.
Well, I don't know if it's say if they've got 5 years on the table with a couple of performance triggers or games played triggers, is that not reasonable and responsible for a player that has serious issues with his body?
I think
you can't go 9 years for Oscar Allen. You just can't.
But someone will.
Well, I know. So are you prepared to lose him? Is my question.
You're auctioning your house. It's only what people are prepared to pay.
Yeah.
So the clubs will come.
Let some other idiot give him 9 and be prepared to make a statement and lose him. But you're not going to lose him for nothing. And with where they are at, is it the worst thing? I don't know.
They're pretty thin.
Do you put a lot? Well, what do you do? At what point do you go, well, we can't give you 10, mate. We can't give you 10 years. You're Oscar Allen. You're not Franklin.
All right.
So how many? We're nearest to how many would you be prepared to go?
Well, he's 26, is he?
Yeah, 26.
Oscar Allen, there we go. He's 25. He's just turned 26. 26. I would give him 6 years.
Yeah.
6 years to 32. He's your captain.
I'm capping it at 5. And if you have to lose him, it's a good stand to make.
Before you go to a break, nearest the pin, what is the sanction today for Craig McRae?
Oh, they'll let him off. There'll be nothing. There'll be a warning, which is just comical, because if it was Alistair Clarkson, your coach, it would be far more significant than nice guy McRae.
Yeah, Alistair has
rules for some.
Has a rap sheet.
Rules
Craig's
for
is
some.
pretty clean.
Rules for others.